Today we have a special guest, Jamie Weeks.
I had one focus and one focus only, and that was making as much money as I could possibly make. I'm a hustler.
You got the itch like we do. We want to start every new business.
Hey, bro, I'm way past the fucking itch.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, the faster I get experience, the less mistakes I'm going to make. A lot of owners thought it was them, that they were the reason for the success. And I was like, dude.
We talked to a ton of business owners. We never talked to this side of the world. Welcome to another episode of Behind the Rise with entrepreneur Jamie Weeks. I mean, this episode is pretty spectacular. It's about 60 minutes. This guy has owned 140 plus Orange Theories. He founded Sweathouz that has now 17 locations and a ton more to open. He also owns over 10 Dogtopias. I mean, this guy is an absolute monster. He had huge exits, and he's an amazing operator that's built great culture. So tune into this episode. You don't want to miss it.
All right, welcome to another episode of Behind the Rise. Today we have a special guest. We have Jamie Weeks. He's the founder of Sweathouz. He's a franchisee of Dogtopia and a founder of LFC Brands. So we're super excited to have you. I've been looking forward to this conversation. I can't wait to break down all the exciting stuff that you're doing. So we're pumped.
And
Awesome. Thank you.
I'm personally a huge fan. Is it Sweathouz or Sweathouse, by the way?
Oh, the house, the way he said it made it very Nordic. I liked it.
Yeah.
But it was, very Nordic, I'm going to Copenhagen in 2 weeks, and I'm sure that's how they'll say it.
Yeah.
But it's Sweathouz. It's Sweathouz,
Yeah.
H-O-U-Z.
So
What did I say, Sweathouz?
You're a freak. You're a freak for that.
Yeah. But no, I liked it. I liked it. I'm going to try to buy that one quick also.
Yeah. So I'm personally a huge fan. If anyone doesn't know what Sweathouz is, I mean, it's an amazing experience. It's almost like the ultimate recovery day type of vibe. You go in, you have your full private sauna, you have a full private ice plunge, and then you have a full vitamin shower, and you have like a massage. I mean, it's an amazing new concept that he came up with. And he's selling them like crazy on the licenses, and he has an amazing experience. I'm so excited to dive into your experience and your background and your history. Because again, I think there's just so much value that you're going to bring. So I'm excited to dive into it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Those are really, really kind words. Listen, it's an experience that's evolved. It started in 2019. It was just sauna and vitamin C shower. And then we knew we had to add some other modalities and do some other things. And we tested a bunch of different things over a 2 or 3 year period. And it's gotten to where we're at today, which I think we're probably 90% there. There's more for us to do and more in the experience that's coming. But I really, really appreciate the support. Thank you.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, talk about even at my house, like I sauna, I steam, I do like the cold plunge and all that.
Yeah.
When I go to the gym, and it's just like what you did was you created that. I literally was looking for a place that had those things. So it's like you created that option for people who don't belong to those, their gyms don't have it. They don't have it at their house. It's like you're capitalizing on that. And it's a beautiful concept. So we love it.
Yeah. It's thanks. It hasn't been real common here in the US, the way it is in Europe, or in some of these major cities in New York and LA. You have a lot of the bathhouses and places that have done this for years. But what's crazy about this is it really took notice when social media and Twitter and everything, the way that information's traveling so fast, we're getting education on these things a lot faster and learning about things a lot faster. Listen, I'm 49 years old, and I think about the way that, I learned things when I was either a teenager or even an early adult with my parents. It was the news and the newspaper. That's the only way I learned about things. That's the only way we learned about things. But the way things are traveling right now with information, you start realizing that there's stuff out there in the rest of the world that people are using that are having massive health benefits. And hot cold contrast therapy has been one of those for hundreds of years, if not thousands.
And there's so many cool studies now, and Huberman's backing it. Some of like the biggest, health advocates in the country are backing it with these amazing case studies. So it's like a perfect blend of trend and health, and again, like backed with science. So it's not just like these weird little fads. I think it's here to stay.
Yeah, that's, and I get that a lot. And the more that people say, is it a fad? I ask them if they've ever done it, and they say no. And I'm like, well, then you're not going to understand it. And that's why you may think that. But here's the thing. I started really cold plunging and sauna, contrast therapy about 3 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago. And within 30 days, I just remember saying to myself, there's no way I'm quitting this. Like, there's no way. Like, we've all been to a gym, and whether it's Orange Theory or all these other gyms, Barry's, Flywheel, Soul Cycle, all these things that have come and gone are just amazing, right? but they get old and they get tired pretty quick. And that's just part of fitness. It's part of it. But when it comes to a sauna and a cold plunge, I don't know how I would ever say I don't want to do that. But on top of that, it's so good for your mental health to take that time and just kind of, sit in there. And I meditate. I use, there's a business called Othership out of Montreal that are opening in New York, and they are the best at group sauna and group plunge. There's no one better. And they have a meditation app that is as good as any meditation app I've ever used in my life. And so I've been using it a lot in the sauna for just 15-minute meditations daily. And it's had an amazing impact on the rest of my day.
Oh yeah. I mean, you're talking, I'm a guy who suffers pretty heavily with anxiety and stuff. So I'm huge into that stuff. I mean, meditation, breath work, just disciplined routines. A lot of people with anxiety don't understand the ways out, and the ways out are actually with these small disciplines and these kind of micro wins throughout the day, and proving to yourself. It's like this big mental game between the ears. And if you do the two minutes in the cold plunge, if you do 2.5 minutes the next day, it's like you build up these micro wins. And
you're so right.
And in the mental, and when you're someone who deals with like anxiety, those mental wins is proving to your mind, it's correlating that memory to win, your memory to a win. And that's kind of what slowly climbs your way out of that mental K-hole you're in if you struggle with anxiety. So
yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah,
you're exactly right. Not to mention the dopamine rush you're going to get from it.
Yeah.
And that dopamine rush on a daily basis like that, replacing, I've had a lot less caffeine since I've really started meditating and cold plunging. And I tend to cold plunge a little bit longer at a warmer temperature. And so, and it's something that Huberman does as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so Dr. Soberg will tell you that anything, and she wrote the book on contrast therapy, Dr. Susanna Soberg. There's no one like her. She's the best. She's amazing. And she'll tell you that the benefits really come at 11 minutes a week under 60 degrees Fahrenheit, which people think you have to go colder. And that's actually not the truth. And so we keep our cold plunges between 48 and 54, somewhere in that range. And I'll typically do 6 to 10 minutes at 52, 53. And that dopamine rush and endorphins will last me for hours. And I won't ever really go over 8 or 10 if that's at 54, but that 4 to 6 minutes, when you sit there, I watch my blood pressure, my heart rate drop. I feel it in my shoulders and my neck where I carry stress. And doing it after a 20 or 30 minute sauna and having that 40-minute part of my day to do that, you can't beat it. There's nothing better. There's absolutely nothing better.
And what it does to your fat burning cells.
Yeah, right. It creates more brown fat,
yeah.
And brown fat's the good fat. Brown fat's the fat that burns your metabolism. And so we've all been in that state where you're just famished and feeling hungry, and you just feel your body and you're energized. That's exactly what contrast therapy is going to do to you, and what cold plunge is going to do to you. You're exactly right.
Yeah. So, I mean, we could go on and on about this because
we could. Yeah, we can stop. Yeah. I got it.
But your past wasn't just Sweathouz, right? I mean, you have plethora of other businesses and had major success. So let's go way, way back, and let's talk a little bit about your childhood, where you're from. What was your background?
Yeah. So my dad worked in retail, and we moved around a good bit. I was born actually in Rochester, New York, and we lived in Detroit, Michigan, Lexington, Kentucky. We lived in Atlanta for a lot of it. And then in middle school, we moved to Greenville, South Carolina. And I really kind of credit easily South Carolina, where I was raised and where I grew up. And then from there, I played college golf at a small school called Huntington College in Montgomery, Alabama. And then after that, moved to Atlanta and started working basically on Wall Street with asset managers, mutual funds, hedge funds, and things like that. And then towards the end of that portion of my career, I was a family wealth director at Morgan Stanley with one of my best friends as a partner, still one of my best friends today. And I said to him, let's see, I'm 49, so this would have been 2013. So I would have been 38 with a wife, and still a wife, obviously, and 2 girls who are now 15 and 17. At the time, I would have had a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old. And or maybe a little bit older than that, and said, we gotta do something different. I mean, this just W-2 living and paying 55% in taxes, no matter how well you do, and starting over at 0 the next year is not what I want to do for the rest of my career. And I always had I don't want to use visions, but I always had ideas and a dream to be an entrepreneur. It was always kind of like there, never really knew how to do it. And I think that's like, we see so much bullshit on social media about, oh, you can go do this, buy apartments, be family. Also, I'm just like, bro, there's like 100 steps in between that bullshit,
Right.
what you're telling me and what the fuck I'm going to have to do. Cause it's going to be insane what I'm going to have to do. Right.
Right.
And so, I wanted to be in health and wellness. I saw a real push there and saw that just more and more people and younger people getting into it, and saw success there with SoulCycle and Flywheel, found Orange Theory, and said, hey, listen, let's see if we can open one of these and see what happens. And I worked out at a CrossFit, and I had met a guy named Mike Mayer who was my first hire at Honors, Orange Theory. And I said, I've never run a gym before, and you have. Would you mind helping me with this? He's like, sure. And so we opened our first Orange Theory in December 22nd, 2014. And I funded this myself. I took on some friends and family investing along the way. And then 3 years to the date, I sold that business with 12 Orange Theories and white space for another 42, I think. I sold that business to a private equity firm at 36 months. And it was one of the most life-changing things that's ever happened to me. I mean, I had done well in the past, but that was life-changing. That was life-changing. And that was my first step into like, I guess I could build something here.
There's so much that just happened in that conversation.
Yeah.
So one of the things I think is majorly important, especially for young listeners, is you didn't start your entrepreneurial journey in your late 30s.
Yeah. I talk a lot about that also. It's because I have so many 26, 27, 28-year-olds that are like, oh, I want to start a business. And I'm just like, dude, you don't know shit. Are you kidding me? You're going to fail. Like, you have no idea how bad you're going to fail. Right. But then, you also got to take that bet and take that risk on yourself. Right. And so there's that balance there of like, and even at 38, I wasn't ready. I mean, it was just one of those things where I was like, if I was ever going to make a bet, I got to make a bet now. And I don't want to make a bet on someone else. I want to make the bet on me. And that's the most important thing that I can say here. It's like, you got to make a bet on yourself. The same way you three are making a bet on yourself and saying, we're going to go out and do this and do that. You got to make a bet on yourself. And I think I don't think I was a true adult until I was 34, 35, 36 to understand the levity of taking that risk.
And the other thing to mention that my brothers can relate to is taking the risk in your 30s should give some hope to younger people who are thinking like, well, I'm in this job, I'm 31, I'm 29, and is it too late for me? So I hope that gives help to those people. But to make a risk with kids, like young kids in a family, is a whole different element of risk. You know?
Big time. That was the first, when you said you had 2 kids, that was the first thing that I thought.
Right.
Because
let me actually finish what you were going to say, and then I'll touch on that.
No, go ahead. Because I mean, a lot of people who are like younger, we're telling people like, if you're going to take a chance, take it earlier in life where you don't have a mortgage and kids and all that stuff, so you can live you can live like on a small budget. You can kind of ride out storms. You can move back in with your parents. When you have 2 kids, a mortgage, and a wife, like you don't have that fallback plan. Like there's plan A or plan A, at that point.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, you're exactly right. I will say that like, and when I think about my career from age 22 to let's say 36, 37, I had one focus and one focus only, and that was making as much money as I could possibly make. I mean, I'm a hustler, and that's from my dad of being a hustler. And I was just going to hustle, and it didn't matter how many days I had to work. My goal was to make as much money as possible. And so I had done well enough to where we were frugal and we had saved some money. And it was me telling Reagan, my wife of 21 years now, saying, "Hey, we're gonna use some of the savings we got, and we're gonna make a little bet here and see how it goes." And thank God she is. The balance to my risk, because I mean, I'll roll the dice with anyone, anytime, anywhere. We'll cut cards for it if you want to cut cards for it. And so she was just like, all right, let's be smart about this. It's like, I got it, I promise. But I would say the most important thing of that is this, actually. It's one thing to take risk with one Orange Theory and one studio, right? It's the fact that when I look back of how crazy part of me was when we had crazy success with the first one and I couldn't open the second one fast enough. And then we had crazy success in the second one. So this is early 2015. This is like peak Facebook. Facebook ads are rolling, fitness is becoming heavy. And then I open a third one. That's when I stepped back and I said, I worked for a guy named Brian Singer at UBS, who was one of the smartest people I've ever worked with in my life. one of the greatest investors I've ever been around. And he said, I said to him, if you could give me any advice about investing, what would you say over my career? And I was probably 26 when I asked him this. And he said, you're going to get 3 or 4 chances at a home run in life. And when those fat pitches come along, you got to go all in. And everything else is going to be singles and doubles. But you're going to know in your heart, I got a fat pitch and I got one in front of me and I got to go all in. And when I had that third Orange Theory, that's when I saw that fat pitch. And I was like, I think this is my first one. I think I got to go all in. And I just pushed all in and went as hard and fast as I could. And it paid off.
Man, is that true?
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, I love that.
Fucking true, though.
That's great advice.
There's even times where we're in our lives, like we know when that fat pitch is there. Like we're like, whoa, this feels a little, you know, like different, almost like it just feels different. Like you said, it's a fat pitch. Like it's, you know, it's that time. Like
you know. And I will say this though, it's the easy sale or the easy path is typically the wrong one. Okay, and so your fat pitch is not going to be Bitcoin at $10. Okay. You're not going to know that. That's not what it is. It's one of those things where you see the vision and the path so clearly. And what I saw with Orange Theory early, and I built the team and the culture around to see my vision as well, because, you know, a shared group doing this together is a lot more than just one person doing it. Right. When I saw that vision, it was a speed play. You go as fast as you can. You scale as fast as you can. You go as fast as you can. Fast speed. Because the faster you go, the faster I get experience. And the faster I get experience, the less mistakes I'm going to make. And so from year one to year 2 to year 3 to year 4, if I'm going 3 or 4 times faster than anyone else, I'm actually getting 8 times the experience that they're getting is the way I looked at it. It's no different than Kobe saying, I don't work out for 6 hours or work out for 12 because everyone else is working out for 3. So I'm going to get better 3 times faster. Right. And so you've got to think about that, more reps. And so you've got to think about that when you see that risk and it's good and you're like, I'm in, let's do it. You can't go fast enough.
Yeah. So what was your strategy there? So you got in, right? Now,
yeah.
Was it like a cash flow play, or did you immediately know that you were going to build this to a certain number and then exit? You know, because in order to grow, you're sucking out cash to reinvest.
By the way, I'm assuming I can cuss on here because I'm drunk. Left. Okay.
Let it roll, baby.
Yeah. Okay. I should have asked that before. Dude, I had no fucking clue what I was doing. Are you out of your mind? I didn't know what the fuck I got myself into. So I had, we built an Excel sheet, and I was just like, if we get to, and I'll just say X number of members, I'll make a number up. If we get to 500 members, they're going to be one of the greatest investments I've ever made. I mean, this is going to be amazing. We got to 1,200 members in the first year.
Whoa. And
I was just like, what in the world have I got myself into? Like, what in the world have I got myself into? And so it was insane cash flow, and I was just using that cash flow to reinvest as fast as I could. I realized really early how lucky I was for 2 things. That the opportunity, I was not born on third and thought I hit a triple. Okay. I realized I'm a part of Orange Theory. It is not about Jamie Weeks. It is about Orange Theory. And actually recognizing that really early separated me from a lot of people, because a lot of owners thought it was them, that they were the reason for the success. And I was like, dude, every time I go to Boca, I'm kissing that ring. I can't thank these people enough. Mm-hmm. And by doing that, they gave me more and said, okay, you go faster. And so your question was, how did I know it was a cash flow play, and how did I know which direction? So I just wanted to keep building bigger, better studios as fast as I could. And I didn't care where they were. And I knew I needed to prove out more than just Atlanta. And so I went to Chattanooga. I then went to, I bought the rights to Portland, Oregon, sight unseen, had never been there in my life. And they called me and said, hey, it's available. Do you want it? I was like, absolutely, I'll take it. And was just kind of like, I knew we had lightning in a bottle. And so I just went all in on real estate as fast as I could, because I thought it's going to be all about who's got the most real estate at the end of the day. And that was my play.
Smart.
I have a question. So at this time, you're talking like 2015. This is kind of when a lot of these.
Yeah. So this is. Yeah. So December 2004. I can give you the exact timetable. December of 2014, I opened our first one, and then 15, I opened 2 more. 15, I bought the rights to Chattanooga and more around Atlanta. And then in end of 15, I bought the rights to Portland. We opened there in 16. I then bought the Charleston, South Carolina studio and the rights to all of South Carolina. And then was going into 17, we had bought the rest of Georgia, No, I'm sorry, a couple more in Georgia. So in December of 17, I had 12 open studios. I'll tell you the math. I can't believe I'm going to tell you this. I'll tell you the math. I had 12 open studios doing $5 million in EBITDA of net cash flow. 12 studios,
baby.
Whoa. So, gee, that's
with no
fucking,
debt.
That's
Hey,
crazy.
with no debt.
Wow.
So
All funded by the cash flow from the other stores.
Actually funded by myself. I mean, when I was all in, boys.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a point in 17 where Reagan called me and she's like, I don't look at the numbers much, but just tell me we're going to be okay. Just tell me we're not spending all of our money. And I was like, I can't tell you that.
Yeah.
I can't tell you. I am spending all of our money, but I was paying. So I took on a couple more little investors in the end of 15, early 16. And this is one of my proudest things. I was paying a monthly dividend that increased every month for 26 consecutive months.
Wow.
It's a deal for them.
That's incredible.
So yeah, when we sold, they made stupid money. We all made stupid money, but yeah, they made stupid money.
I have so many questions. So during 15, when you first started, there was a lot of these little kind of like even Soul Cycles. There was a lot of these kind of franchise group fitness places that started to pop up.
Not
Why
yet.
Orange
No, not
Theory?
in 15. Not in 15. Not in 15.
Oh no.
Those didn't start popping up till 17, 18, 19.
Oh.
Right. We had a 2 or 3 year window where we were the only game in town, because like F45 didn't really start getting big until even like 16, 17. And so Orange Theory was 7 or 8 years ahead on the boutique fitness hit stuff.
So because the big thing is you bet on a horse, right? Like you bet on yourself for sure, but you also bet on the engine of Orange Theory.
Yeah.
And
yeah. I was making a bet on the horse, while the private equity firms in 17 were making a bet on the jockey.
Yeah.
Right.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So, and then can you tell me a little bit about, because I'm sure a lot of listeners are like,
yeah,
how the fuck do you even get into like a franchise? You know, like what was the structure? What's the down payment? What do you need for equity? Like what do you need for a net worth or all that shit?
Yeah. Yeah. So Orange Theory is pretty interesting. It wasn't that bad. It was, and you can't, I think I'm right on these numbers. I mean, dude, that was fucking 10 years ago. The licenses were $40,000 each. I bought 3 licenses to start. And then each studio, I was going to need, and the FDD would tell you all this, so I'm not anything crazy, but Atlanta wasn't too expensive. And so I was going to need somewhere between 400 to 600,000 to open each studio. The paybacks on those were pretty crazy, pretty quick. And so, I didn't use any debt, but then after the first 1 or 2, I forget at what point, I went back and I went to some family and friends and said, hey, listen, if you guys want to put in on this, put in, and let's kind of do this together. And I still was the largest shareholder and majority by far, but I wanted some other people in there. And then when we sold in 17, when I said, hey, I'm going to start a family office, Legacy Franchise Concepts, and I'm going to probably invest in a couple other things, those same people could not text me fast enough to say, how can I get a piece of this? And I said, hey, you're in, let's do it. Let's keep the same group and let's keep going. And so, and then we did it again. And then the same private equity firm came in 22 and bought a piece of LFC because they said, we want to keep betting on the jockey.
Wow.
There's another question I have here. So as you're scaling and building, was there like an aha moment of like, I'm going to keep this thing for cash flow? Or was there an aha moment when you went back to your, like kind of like your old, when you worked the W-2s and like private equity firms, all that stuff, you're like, oh shit, this is sellable. Yeah.
So I wish I was smart enough to say, oh, I should just cash flow this thing the rest of my life. But the other side to that is, so now I'm 42 years old, in 17, right? And we're doing $5 million in EBITDA, and people are talking about multiples these things are selling for. And I'm just like, that's a lot of money. Like that's a lot of money. There's no possible way I'm walking away from that money. And so I knew I needed to be, I say this in the most humble way, but part of this is also just like the facts are the facts. We were the best group inside the system, and it wasn't even close. We had the best culture, thumbs. We had the best culture. We had the best people. We had the best team. We had the best numbers. We had the best. We were the best, and it wasn't even close. And I knew I needed to be first to go to market, because if I was first to go market, I was going to set the tone for everybody else. Like the private equity firms are going to look at Honors and say, wow, if this is what's in this system, these are really good operators. But if I was third or fourth and I was going behind a couple people that weren't great operators, they weren't going to demand the multiple that I was going to demand. And so I called Dave Long and I was like, hey, listen, I think I got to sell this business now. And he was like, I don't disagree, which is a pretty amazing franchisor to support me and say, like, you know, just like kind of like friend to friend, like, yeah, it's time to get paid. Let's do this. And he fully supported me and hired a banker, went to market. And it's my first time ever selling a business like that. I mean, I've never done anything like that in my life, right? And it was the coolest shit I've ever done in my entire life. Flying around the country, meeting with 10 or 12 different private equity firms, telling the story, learning about them and learning about how they invest and how they're doing it, and realizing like, I can do this a couple more times. Like, these guys love this story and I think I can keep doing this.
So talk about that process a little bit, because that's you know,
dude, it was
like
amazing.
the golden goose. Like, so you hired a banker, right?
Yeah.
Did you interview a bunch of investment bankers, and then you were like, okay, these are the ones that I want? And then what is the banker's role? Do they help you find the buyer? Is that what they do?
Yeah. So it's dude, that's the guy you gotta get on this podcast one time. This guy Brian Smith from Piper Sandler. He's hilarious. He's one of the biggest and best bankers in health and wellness, investment bankers in health and wellness. The guy's amazing. His knowledge is unbelievable. And he's just a really good guy also. And so Dave Long or someone had put me in contact with him. And so he had represented actually Orange Theory in some deals. And so he comes out to Atlanta and we sit down for a couple hours and we kind of go through everything we have. And he's like, okay, I just like, listen, bro, I've never done this. So I got to trust you. I don't know. I know nothing about nothing. And so you got to take my hand and lead me through this. And he was like, I got you. I was like, okay. And so, start doing like, he puts like data room together. You do this whole big thing, and then they build the presentation and the story and this whole thing. And then they send like a 3-sheet little kind of like synopsis without the name of the company to like, let's say 200 private equity firms. And then 50 or 60 come back and say, hey, we have a real interest of looking at this. And so they'll sign a non-disclosure. And then those 50 get the books and look at everything and go through it and see if they really want to make a bid on the business. And then typically from there, 10 or 12 will say, hey, we'd like to make a bid on this business. And we want to meet with the management team, meet with Jamie and do all that. And so when it got to that point, that's months and months to get to that point. And so when we got to that point, it was New York and LA. I was in New York for probably 3 or 4 days meeting with different PE firms, and then out in LA for 3 or 4 days meeting with PE firms. And then that list gets narrowed down to like probably 5 or 6 that want to go deeper. And then you start having dinners with them and more conversations. And then you have set a date for bids, and they send in bids. And so I remember being at home on a Friday night at like 7 o'clock, waiting for the phone to ring, and my phone rings and it's Brian. And he's like, all right, I got the bids. Let's go through them. And I was just like, dude, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck just happened? Like, what the fuck just happened? And so I'm like so excited. And he's like, bro, you better calm down. We got a long way to go. I mean, they're about to climb so far up in you and your business. They're going to need to know everything. I'm like, I'm good with it. It's fine. We're clean. We got nothing. And he's like, all right. And so, we pick a firm, and then, and there was some drama with it, which I won't get into, but it was pretty fun. One day we'll have back on, and I feel comfortable telling the story of the drama. It'll be a good story for you guys.
Good.
And then, we did like 90 days of due diligence and, maybe 60. And met with the firm more and more. Prospect Hill at the time, they were Jaded with Childs. They're in Boston. And yeah, so then we closed, and you just kind of sit there and be like, what ride did I just go on? But for me, it was like a massive adrenaline rush.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it was actually a pretty interesting, a little bit of a state of depression after it, because you're on this 6-month journey for a goal, and then the goal happens, and then you're like, okay, well now what do I do? Now what do I just, and they're just like, yeah, you keep working and you scale the business bigger because you got 12 and you want 100. And so you can start going faster and bigger and faster and bigger. And that's when the big one comes.
So did you sell, so you want to go?
Yeah, I mean, I need questions answered. So
he's the oldest, he gets preference. I don't know if you've noticed that.
When at what point did you determine the multiple that you were going to be asking for? Is it?
Well, no, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way.
You just put it out, and then they come back.
You put it out there, yeah, and they come back and say, here's what we're willing to pay. And it was the multiple was double what I was expecting.
Okay.
Oh,
There you
shit.
go. Good thing you didn't put it out there. Right.
Right.
They got to come back to you. I love
That's
that.
right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
And when they were doing due diligence, right? Like, what were they focusing on the most? Was it your management team? Was it your books? Was it
Yeah.
your EBITDA? Were you guys arguing over charges that shouldn't have been added to EBITDA
Yeah.
that weren't?
Great question.
All that
Yeah.
stuff.
Great question. Great question. They were actually so impressed that there wasn't one personal expense that I had run through that business in 36 months and it was so clean. And when you do what's called a quality of earnings, and so you have a third party accounting firm come in, usually one of the big four, they come in and you pay them some stupid amount of money. And they go through the books, fine tune everything. And it takes them about 30 days to do that. And they give that report to the buying firm and they say, hey, listen, we went through everything, the quality of earnings, and this is as clean as it gets. And so when they did our quality of earnings and went through it, it was beyond clean. And so that removes a lot of questions pretty quickly. It wasn't like, hey, Jamie's been running a car payment through this. Jamie's paying his wife $300,000 a year. Jamie's paying. There was none of that. None of that was there anywhere. And I wasn't even paying myself a salary. I was just taking my piece of my dividend because I was paying a monthly dividend.
I see. Yeah, that's something like, that's something a lot of entrepreneurs don't realize, that when you're going
big mistake
to sell,
big mistakes.
Your books need to be clean as hell, and
I tell people all the time, I get that question all the time. And I'm like, listen, that's what holding companies are for. Have a holding company over here and run your bullshit through there if you're going to run your bullshit through there, but keep it out of the four wall and keep it out of the business, the main business itself. But have your trust, have your holding account, do your bullshit over there and figure that out. But don't put it in here where someone's going to be an acquirer. If they're going to be an acquirer, they're going to see that. And they're just looking for any reason they can to just chop that number.
So if you set up like a holding company, then you do like management fees to it, right? Then you can do.
I don't know about that. That's over my head. That's legal stuff. I don't know about management fees and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, if you have a holding company, then that's going to solve. If you owned one Sweathouz and you don't have a holding company and you're running your car payment through this and you're paying your wife and she's not working, her husband and he's not working, that's a problem. Just don't do that. That's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great advice. Go ahead. Go ahead. Those are my two big ones I needed to answer.
Because so you sold when you had how many locations?
12. I had 12 open, but I had licenses for like another 38 or 42. And so they look at that and they say, okay, well, we're going to pay him this because we know we can grow this 3 or 4 times because he's got more real estate and more space to go. But if I only had 12 and I didn't have any white space or nowhere to grow, they're not going to pay you that multiple because they're going to look at you like you're a CD or a bond. I mean, it's a cash flow play.
Now, did they want you to stay in or were you out at that point?
Oh, yeah. I was required.
Oh.
I was required. No, yeah. They're not going to, I roll a big number. They pay me a seller note. I'm still got a ton of financial tie to it. And so, and typically the big bite in something like this comes on the second bite. And the second bite for us was March of 2020 when we were in market to sell that business with 75 studios and a crazy EBITDA number. And that for me was going to be the big one. I mean, that was going to be a big one. Pandemic rolls through, never happens.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So you sold at the right time then?
Sold a big piece of it at the right time. Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, got very fortunate with that. There's a lot of people listen, my story is no different than a lot of people who are looking to sell something in 2020 and it never happened. But yeah.
The other question I have too is because I have a friend of mine who's in a franchise type of deal. And he owns the state, right? Like, I don't know how this works, but like state licensing.
Yeah.
How does that work? So like when you said that Orange Theory came up to you and said like, hey, we're going to give you
the rights to
Atlanta, Georgia or Oregon, whatever it was. How does that work?
Yeah, so every franchise system does it differently, and so in Orange Theory they do what's called an area rights, and so every franchise system's different, and so some franchisors have an area rights where you can own the entire state, and those are your rights to the state, and some draw a box around an area and say this is your area. At Orange Theory is area rights, so you could own an entire state, and then you could sell licenses to other people if you wanted to. In Sweathouz, we decided we weren't going to do it by state and area rights. We were just going to do large areas for multi-unit guys, because the thing that I learned in the Orange Theory system and in Dogtopia as well is that the white space is the key to this. Having the ability to grow faster, like a Nico in Boston, right? Like Nico has Boston, but he also has all of Massachusetts. He has all of Rhode Island. and now he's going to get New York as well. And you're in the city and some of the boroughs. And so when you think about that, if he had 10 sweat houses open and he wanted to sell that business, but he's got rights for another 70 or 80 studios on that East Coast, that's going to be just as important as the 10 studios. And so that's why, when I started thinking about franchising Sweathouse, it was, I got to build this as if I was doing it at Orange Theory the way that I did it. They need space, they need to spread out, and they need more runway to get something bigger.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? If you're a big company, you don't want it to be a dead end at 12 or a dead end at 10.
Right.
You want it
So
to
it's
be
just
a
a
dead
cash
end at
flow
80.
play.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah. I mean, you keep saying cash flow play, which I understand that. But I have to tell you, like, when you have a capital gains tax at 20% and your cash flow pay is 50% taxed, and the cash flow play doesn't pay you a multiple, but even if that cash flow got you a multiple of 5 or 6 and you're only paying a 20% tax on it, long-term capital gains, there's just, and you've got a 10-year treasury paying 5% right now. It's kind of hard to say no to a one-time lump sum check, pay the 20% tax, put it in treasuries, earn your 5.5%, pay tax on that. There's nothing wrong with that, buddy. Nothing wrong with that.
No,
The
nothing
chunk
at all.
play, I feel like, is every small business or every business owner's dream is to get to an exit.
Yeah,
like
I think I think one of the problems with that is they don't set the expectations correctly. Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. Never forget that. And so it's one thing to have 2 businesses and be making good cash flow and sell that. And they're like, I don't want to sell unless it's $10 million. And I'm just like, I've said to people before, I'm like, you've been in this thing 2 years. You're out $500,000. They want to give you $3 million, and you're saying you're holding out for 10. Are you out of your mind? Just take the $3 million. What are we doing? Just take the money.
I'm the same way. I'm a huge believer in that.
Yeah, you get paid and go. Just don't go again.
You take money off the table. And there's
100%.
Because you could be stuck in it for 6, 7, 4, 5 years.
You have no idea what's going to happen. You have no idea what's going to happen. It could be another global pandemic happens. You have no idea what's going to happen, right?
Legit.
And so, yeah, you got to make sure you get paid. Make sure you get paid.
I have a question. So the Sweathouse wasn't an existing franchise, right? That you
No,
created
I started
the concept.
Let's
That's
talk
right.
about that.
So what made you go that route versus a pre-existing franchise that already works and just do the exact same thing that you already did?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it's a really interesting story. And so so in 2018, I formed Legacy Franchise Concepts. I asked Prospect Hill, "Hey, I'd like to stay investing in some form of franchising, and I want to start a family office." And they said, I was fortunate; they agreed, and said, "Just be transparent with us and let us know what's going on." I said, "Absolutely." So I would even send them monthly reports of what was going on. So I invested in Dogtopia pretty quickly. And then I wanted to be in health and wellness again. I wanted to be in recovery. And I talked to Perspire. I talked to other sauna companies. And then I found the sauna company, Hotbox, out of Los Angeles. And they were one store, and they were a franchisor selling licenses. And so I partnered with them and bought a piece of the franchisor and a bunch of licenses, and then realized that it maybe wasn't quite as legit and due diligence wise. I should have maybe done more as I thought it was, and quickly realized that this was not a good partnership. And so that's all I can really say about it. But then we went into legal and fighting each other. And so I now own the name Hotbox and the trademark for it. So we can kind of see how that played out. And I never liked the name, and I had not opened any. I had maybe opened one. We were close to opening one Hotbox, and I quickly changed it to Sweathouse, made it our own, and designed it and did it the way that we wanted to do it. I never really anticipated franchising it. For me, it was more of, let's see if this works, and if I can build 30, 40, 50 of these myself and then sell it to someone else that wants to franchise it. And we opened the first Sweat House in November of 19 and the second one in January of 2020. So the timing on this new concept could not have been any worse or better, depending on how you look at it, right? And so in March of 2020, we shut down Sweat House, obviously, with the pandemic. In Atlanta, we reopened the 2 Sweat Houses in May of 2020, mid-May. And by July, we had more members coming in than we had in May. And I was just like, there's no way that I'm going to be the guy to scale a business in a global pandemic. There's no way I'm going to do this. And then I said, well, I guess I am the guy that's going to do this. And so I said, let's go all in again. And we started taking real estate. And that'll end up being the smartest decision I ever made, because it put us light years ahead of everyone else that wanted to be in this space. And so I started taking real estate in 2020 and 2021 and got to 8 studios. And then at the end of 21, I started getting unsolicited bids for Sweathouz.
Wow.
And I got a bid from a private equity firm that I had an interest in. And I said to them, I said, hey, I'm really loyal to these guys that kind of brought me to the dance. And I took that offer to them and they matched it. And so they immediately in February of 22 said, we're in. And I sold them a piece of Sweathouz and Dogtopia. I sold them a piece of LFC.
Wow. Wow. So when you say you're taking real estate, so you're actively looking and signing leases for
signing leases. Yeah.
For future.
Yeah.
And how important is like location to you? Like, do you have like certain parameters based on the concept that you're looking for, or?
Yeah. Great question. Really, really good question. We have not proprietary. We have a software system. It actually is a little proprietary to us that we spend about $50,000 or $60,000 a year on, that gives us the demographic areas or the geographic areas based on our demographics of where we should be considering building Sweathouzes and Dogtopias as well. Anything we're looking to do. And I would say, depending on the city, we use it for probably 60% of our decision making. If it's a city that I know really well, then I'll look at it, but it won't have an impact. If it's a city I don't know really well, it's up to 60% of our decision making.
Wow.
So, okay. I wanted to ask this earlier, but I didn't want to, change the subject. But LFC Brands, right? So that's like your
My family office.
So that means that you're investing into what, other companies? Is that what that is?
Yeah, I mean, it could be anything. It could be us incubating and starting a new franchisor. It could be anything. But I founded it with my money and took on investors and a partner in it as well. I still own I'm still the largest single owner of stock in it. I'm not the majority, but I am the single largest shareholder. And so it's still a massive piece of my life. And this is really what I do every day. I haven't really been involved in Orange Theory in 18 months. I'm off the board and just kind of gave that to Prospect Hill and said, you guys go run that. That's yours.
So what type of like opportunities are you looking for with that? Like, is there certain like criteria that you're looking for to invest in?
Yeah, I mean, right now my massive focus is Sweathouz. I mean, we've got a tiger by the tail.
Yeah,
and so we've got 53 in construction. We've got 80 leases signed. We've got 17 studios open as of today. We'll have a studio open every 1.6 weeks between now and the end of the year, and that'll be in, I think, 27 states or 24 states, something like that. So we are flying. The numbers we're seeing are great numbers, but we're seeing the breadth of client broader than I've ever seen in any business I've been a part of. And so the number of people that an infrared sauna, cold plunge, and vitamin C shower is for, we think is actually bigger than the fitness market. And so let me give you this one stat. If we think about our TAM is total addressable market. 20% of Americans have a gym membership. That's 70 million people have a gym membership. Half those people don't use it. So 35 million people don't use it. So let's just use that number, 10%, 35 million people. If we think about the number of people today that are using an infrared sauna and a cold plunge, it's probably 0.5% of the general public in the U.S. It's probably 1.5 million people. If you think about the number of people that would want to use a sauna, cold plunge, and vitamin C shower for their mental health, we think it's more than 20% of the population. We think that number is greater than fitness that would use it. Even if just half of fitness used it, that's 35 million people, right? Orange Theory at its peak had 1 million members. 1 million.
Wow.
And so when we think about the number of members and people, then total addressable market that we have for Sweathouz, it is a massive, massive number. And so I think the runway here is going to be really, really long. When you think about the numbers I just gave you, combined with someone like me who says, I'll do it the rest of my life. I'm not quitting. There's just no way. It's not happening. And so when you think about that and we're seeing clients stay the longest that I've ever seen a membership stay in any business I've been a part of. People aren't leaving. And so it's really exciting what we have here.
And how important is to your business model, like price point and the type of clientele, right? Is this for like a higher end client? Like what is the what you guys are shooting for?
Yeah, really another good question. Right now, our price point is extremely broad. In Atlanta, for an unlimited membership, it's $149. But all the Atlanta studios over the next 4 months are about to be renovated to match what you have in Burlington. And the contrast therapy studios are what we just opened in Columbus, Ohio, where you have everything in one room with a new design, Sweathouz 2.0. And when we do that, I'm not really sure where the price point's going to be. I have an idea, but it's higher than $149. I know that. When we think about if the membership were $200 a month and you're going to use this 10 times a month, that's $20 a session for a sauna, cold plunge, showers, all the amenities, all the things you need for 1 hour. I got to tell you, that's a pretty good value if you think about what you're getting for that hour. And so the price point will be different, obviously, in New York and LA and London and Boston than Atlanta than other places, but we want to find that spot where it is really the price point is as good for the demographic as we can get. It's more about more people. It's not about a certain group of people.
Mm. The other thing I'm thinking too is to be a franchisor, you have to give massive value to the franchisees in terms of resources and the team that you provide them.
Yeah.
How have you built that team over time?
Yeah. Yeah, it's another good question. You guys, I do a few of these. You guys, these are really good questions, by the way.
You know why? Because we're asking for our
we're business owners.
Yeah, like this is like my favorite episode because this is real business stuff here. Love it.
Yeah. I'm really open about this stuff. I try to be as open as possible because what's the point of going through this stuff and experience and not sharing it? Like that's fucking the dumbest shit in the world. Yeah. Like you want me to share this stuff. I need to tell you this stuff to avoid the pitfalls and the bullshit. Because Let me tell you what, I didn't win because I'm fucking smart. I'm winning out of default from the other people not doing the work and not putting the hustle in, right? 100%. No one's ever accused me of being smart, but no one's ever accused me of being lazy either. And so we have 32 franchisees. That's it. And so when I said I'm going to franchise this, I told the group, I was like, we're going to sell a shit ton of licenses, but I'm going to say no a ton because if they're not a good human being and not someone that I would have dinner with, they're not getting into the fucking system. It's not happening because I'm just not dealing with the bullshit. I don't need someone just ruining my day all day with their negative Nancy bullshit all day, blowing me up. Oh, you're not doing this. You're not doing that. Shut the fuck up. I'm not dealing with that bullshit. Right. I want like-minded people who are positive, good human beings that know how to run a business and take care of their people. And so that's how we're going to do this shit. And so it took us 18 months, and I'm not announcing how many licenses we've sold because it's a big number. We've sold a lot of licenses, but only to 32 franchisees. And 2 months ago, I shut off license sales and said, we're not selling anymore. We don't need it. I got my group. And there's not many people who do the things that I'm doing. And I'm not saying because of me, because I know this is what it's going to take. I have a 15-minute Zoom with every franchisee every week.
Wow.
I talk to every franchisee within every 2 or 3 days, whether it's text, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a FaceTime, whatever it is. I am in Slack. I am in constant communication with our franchisees to hold their hand and help them through some of this. Now, we have some that don't need any hand holding. They are flying and going as fast as they can. And those guys have support at a really high level and just say, hey, are we thinking about this more structure and how we're doing things? And then I've got people who've never been a franchise system before ever who begged me to be in the system. And they're such good guys and such good human beings. I'm like, all right, I got you. I'll sell you 3 licenses in Denver. But if you fuck this up, I'm telling you right now, I'd be livid. But you got to do exactly what I'm telling you to do. And these fuckers do exactly what I'm telling them to do, and they're going to crush it.
Because the key that I see is the difference between, because if you're going to if you're going to be a franchisee, there's options, right? Like you can spend X amount into this. It's almost like you're betting on another horse. Yeah. You're almost looking at like who has the best blueprint and who can give us the best resources to reach that success point.
Yeah.
And it seems like you have that blueprint.
Yeah. So think about it this way. Like you have franchisors out there that don't own any corporate studios.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about this for a second. You're telling me you're going to have an NBA coach who's never, ever played a basketball game?
Right.
Because if you haven't run something yourself and you're selling licenses, we got a problem. Because
Right.
when I come to you with a problem, hey, how do I do this? You're not going to know because you don't learn this shit from a book. Like, it doesn't work that way. If
Right.
it did, we'd all be doing it. You learn this shit by getting thrown in the deep end and saying, oh, fuck, I got to figure some shit out. This ain't making sense.
Right.
And so, you know, I think the fact that we have 11 of the 17 studios we have open today are corporate studios that we started and we ran. Vining's, my studio here in Atlanta, in November this year is going to have a 5-year number. It's been open 5 years. I mean, that's the kind of experience you got to have. And on top of that, in the same team, not the same team, but in the same building, we're running Dogtopia, right? A completely different business with completely different metrics and completely different everything. So we've got the experience to do it. And this isn't rocket science either, right? I mean, this is 2,000 square feet and they're all the same. It's cut and paste. I mean, we're making some things unique. And so the support has got to be there. And so, yeah, it's a Saturday and I'm doing this with you. I just had a Zoom with franchisees this morning. We're doing Saturday Zooms now. I'm here in the office and I'm going to show you this. I got Fong here with me, who's my CFO. Clinton just went over there. Like, we'll work Saturdays and Sundays. We're 7 days a week. This is what we do.
Culture, man. Culture is so fucking big. Even with our organization, like,
it's all that matters.
It's all that matters.
It's all that matters. If you take care of people, they'll take care of you.
Yeah. I have a question. Where the hell did Dogtopia come in the picture? Is anyone else thinking the same thing? How did that even come to play?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you what. Do you guys have dogs?
I'm the biggest dog guy.
Yeah, we're dog guys, big time.
Okay. So if you're a 27-year-old female and you're like, oh, I can't find a life partner, guy or girl, I can't, this is ridiculous. I'm gonna go get a puppy. When you're 27 and you get a puppy at 27, you think at 39 you're gonna get a fucking bird? No. Let me tell you what you're gonna do. You're gonna be like, this is the worst shit ever. This dog just went to puppy heaven. I'm getting 2. And so at 37, you get 2. And then you roll into 49 and you say, that was amazing. I'm getting another 2. And you don't stop. So when you're a dog person at 25, you're in. Right now, under the age of 30 is the highest dog population you've ever had, ownership you've ever had. And so sometimes the obvious answer to invest is right in front of you. So you're telling me more 25-year-olds today have dogs than ever in the history of time? Yeah. Well, guess what? That's probably a business I want to be on the right side of for the next 20 or 30 years.
And I'll tell you the amount. I did
There's
research.
your answer.
I did research, and I'm big in. I do like a bunch of rescue stuff. I'm actually going to an event on Sunday.
Thank you. That's awesome.
And I did a lot of research in the dog world. They're saying that the dog obsession, the dog lovers between Gen Z and millennials are so aggressive that it's actually pushing marriage out longer. So instead of getting married,
100%,
and having kids at 23, they rather
100%.
Be single or be in a relationship, have a dog, and have that extend 4 or 5 years. And then
you think Mrs. Peaches we're going to have less dogs because of Mrs. Peaches?
Right.
No. You're going to have
Peaches,
about 4 million more.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
And the other thing is we're saying they're saying that Gen Z and millennials are spending 2 to 3x more than boomers ever did on their pets.
Yeah.
And it shows there's doggy hotels now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all sorts of these new nuances within the dog community.
Yes.
We have an idea to get into that world at some point, but I have a huge love and passion for that space.
Yeah, it's an interesting, listen, these things are expensive build outs. These are not, I mean, this is, 6,000 square feet, the special HVAC to kill kennel cough, all these things. I mean, it's what and I chose Dogtopia for these reasons. I mean, to me, choosing Dogtopia was a very simple reason. Technology was better. The system was better. It just made more sense. It was just being run better than the others I looked at. And so I was going to choose one. I chose that one for a good reason, but then the other side to it is that horse has got that horse is running cross country. It's not running on a track, and it is going to be a long run with dogs and pets. That's not ending anytime soon. And so, yeah, I think it's probably, I know it's a slower, longer cash flow play. That goes to what you were saying earlier about cash flow. That's a cash flow business. That's one where it's sticky money. You get that puppy at day one, you're going to have that puppy for 12, 13, 14 years. And so I think that's the way my thesis on investing in it was that. So it's a little different, but then also, can I keep going on tangent? Because it's going to be a good one for you.
Love it.
Okay. So I think about Reagan Weeks, my wife, and if I wanted to get all of Reagan Weeks's wallet, if I want to get her entire wallet, right? We have 2 labs, Chief and Winnie. I could tell Reagan right now, hey, will you pull a steak out for me? And she'll be like, yeah, I'll pull a steak out you tonight. She'll pull 2 out, and one's going to be for me to make for the dogs. Right. I'm just telling you right now, that's where we're at in our life. And so I'm going to get in her wallet with Dogtopia. I'm going to get in her wallet with Orange Theory. I'm going to get in her wallet with Sweathouse. And those are different parts of her wallet. And so a lot of people go after just fitness. And I'm like, man, that's the same part of the wallet. I'm trying to get all the wallet. Right. And so at Sweathouse, I created Ego, which is our shampoo, conditioner, body wash, and dry shampoo. Well, that's another part of Reagan's wallet. It's Sephora ready. It's clean. It's all the things. It took us a year and a half to create it. We use it in our Sweathouse studios. Well, that's another piece of her wallet. If I were to go get, an aesthetics company, which is Botox and the med spa stuff, that's another part of the wallet. And so you start thinking about all these pieces of the wallet, and that's how you build a true balanced portfolio of investing.
You got the itch like we do. We want to start every new business. When I think of like med spas, like there's just so much.
Hey, bro, I'm way past the fucking itch.
Yeah.
Okay,
You have
full rash. Way past the itch.
Yeah, but it's funny though, isn't it? Like, when you jump into a room and have conversations that are like-minded people like we are to you.
Yeah.
It's funny because we all have that same similarities, like those common denominators of like, fuck, we could do this, or I want that part of the wallet, like I want that whole piece.
Yeah, I think listen, that 49-year-old female demographic is with social media now, it appeals down to 27, 28, 29, and then it appeals all the way up to 60. And so, and maybe 65 even, right? And so you think about that, that's an area that I really want to be a big part of. And then I start thinking about that younger male and that younger male's dollars. And so for me, like, an investment that I'd like to make and that I've looked into is I got to get into this, the meat, protein, bison, elk, venison, these farms out west that are shipping this protein, this natural organic protein in some form or fashion.
Butcher boxes and good shops. And
I mean, I want to be in that space so bad. I want to be in that space so bad. Yeah, there's a lot. And I may be late there, but I really think I've had a personal body transformation the last 8 months, and I did a full 30 days of carnivore just to see how it would what happened, and it was insane. I mean, it was insane what happened to my body and my sleep and my skin and everything. And so now I've just been like 80% carnivore, but I'm ordering these meats, I'm ordering these proteins, and I'm seeing the difference. And I'm just like, I'll pay whatever I got to pay. It's no different than my dog. I'm just like, this is what he's charging me. I don't have a choice. I gotta have this. And so that's a big one.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, especially with the carnivore swing right now. I mean, those companies are really hitting groove.
Yeah, I did carnivore for a while. I did it almost for a year, and I lost
it's amazing.
Over 100 pounds.
Dude, it's amazing. It's amazing. I never, and I think it's actually, again, probably by default, it's probably much less about it being carnivore as it is just eliminating that other bullshit, right?
Exactly.
I mean, dude, it's just that other bullshit is truly bullshit. We've been lied to. That food pyramid, that's a fucking scam.
Lucky Charms is on it. Can you believe it?
I mean, can you believe? Yeah, literally with Nutre, that's one of our core values is we don't put anything that's not a whole food. No preservatives, everything all natural.
Right.
No seed oils, no bullshit in the food. Right. So we don't follow like specific diets like keto, carnivore. We
totally get it.
Balanced meals, but all like pure whole foods with no bullshit inside.
With a little bit of a Mediterranean spin.
Yeah.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah, you guys are going to crush it. Absolutely crush it.
Yeah. So what's the future hold for Sweathouse? Is it, once you get to a certain, lay out the future here. So you have your 32 franchisees, you have your corporate stores.
Yeah.
What's the play?
Yeah. It's the president calling.
Do not disturb. It means it's a double
tap. Do not disturb. It's a double tap. Yeah. Listen, I'm not sure. Actually, I am sure. But let's do another podcast in 6 months, because in 6 months, my answer may be a lot different of things that I think we're going to do. Listen, again, let's go back to what I said earlier, is that you get 3 or 4 home runs in your life. Okay. And obviously Orange Theory for me was a home run in a massive way. I've had a couple other really good doubles and triples, but I feel like I got a grand slam with this one. And so I'm trying to play this one correctly and really think through this. And I'm focusing as much as anything on building a business that's so good that I don't want to sell it and I don't have to sell it. Because if I can perfect a business that I don't want to sell, everyone's going to want it. And so if I think every time I've thought about building a business to sell it, it hasn't worked out real well. But this time, thinking about building a business that I could keep for a long time, and we could do a lot of things off of the Sweathouz name and off of the team that we've built here. And so this may be one that I'm on this train for a while, and we may do some small investments around it and do some pretty cool stuff.
I love that. I know we have a mutual friend, Kevin Cooney. He's awesome, great dude. I think you're surrounding yourself with some, I mean, as you know, some pretty rock star folks. What's new with how'd you even meet Kevin? What's your relationship with him?
So let me start with I'd only been to Boston once, and I didn't have a great experience. And this is like maybe 20 years ago. And so I told a private equity firm who's based there in Boston, I was like, man, I don't want to go to Boston. It's not my people. I'm a Southerner. I'm just kind of like, and so I go to Boston and I meet a couple of people and I'm like, oh, man, these people are kind of nice. And then I come back to Boston. I'm like, dude, this is a really good city. And then I'm in the North End. And so it seems like every time I'm up there, I love Boston more and more. And then you meet a Kevin Cooney and you're like, not only is this guy as Boston as it gets, and he's maybe one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. And then, meeting you guys and Nico and all these. And so meeting Kevin Cooney was just like a really, really interesting thing. We had been looking for some certain influencers to partner with at Sweathouz who were everyday people, but also athletic and doing the practice of contrast therapy, right? And he came across my feed. And so I sent it to our marketing team. I said, hey, you guys, line up a Zoom with this guy. This guy seems pretty interesting. He'd be a lot of fun. And so fast forward a couple of weeks, we have like a really open office here and the marketing team's on a Zoom and I hear him talking and I kind of walk over there and I'm like, oh, you're Kevin Cooney. I'm Jamie Weeks. Nice to meet you. And I go, I've only got one really good friend up there in Boston. You may know him. Do you know Nico Verano? And he's like, dude, Nico's like one of my closest friends. Are you kidding me? And we just immediately hit it off. And Kevin started reaching out more and more to me about business, about mentorship and asking questions. And I was just like, dude, you're fucking annoying me the shit out of me. What do you, he's like, just give me 10 minutes. Just give me 10 minutes. Let me just ask you this and ask you that. And I was like, all right. So he was asking about me looking at businesses and when I buy them, what I'm looking for and do this and that. And so I said, hey, I'm going to LA and I'm looking at a business. It's a crazy, crazy idea. Why don't you and Ashley get on a plane, meet me out there, and I'll take you through the whole thing that we're going to do. And so we did that together, and we actually took a video crew and a photographer with a videographer with us, and we filmed the whole thing. And I was like, send this to me, cut it up into pieces, send it to me, and it was really good. And we even put it out there. And Kevin now is like, what if you let me tag along on all these little things with you, and we kind of create this thing? And I was like, I'm going to Copenhagen for 4 days. I'm going to cold plunge in the Baltic Sea with Susanna Soberg. You want to go? And he's like, you got to be fucking kidding me. I'm like, let's do this. And so he and a videographer are going to go with us over to Denmark for 4 days and 2 weeks. And we're going to film the whole thing. And I think what Kevin and I may do is we may kind of create this little thing where he's kind of tagging along with me as we do this kind of cool shit. And I just get to make fun of him the whole time. And he just follows me around. And it's like a win-win.
You guys just like go back and forth. I have the best hair. No, you have the best hair.
He definitely has the best hair. But I mean, I'm not bad for 49 years old. But we're gonna do some cool stuff together. He enjoys these conversations, and I think he appreciates how open I am about it and how much I share. And so I think he and I are gonna do a lot more stuff like this together.
Awesome. Yeah, he's an awesome dude. Great reputation around here too. He's just a solid dude. Like Nico, again, same breed of
same
people.
Thing. Yep.
All right. So Jamie, we're getting close to the end here. So one question that we always ask every guest is, what is your best piece of advice that you could pass on to the listeners who are either in business, want to start a business, or, anything like that you could provide value in your best piece of advice?
Yeah. Your gut is usually never wrong when it comes to people you're hiring and firing.
Love that.
And every time I've gone against my gut with someone I thought was loyal and right, I was wrong. And every time my gut told me, oh, this is a winner, you got to go all in on this person, I've gone all in, and it's worked out every time. And so your instincts, you got to be a read of people. And a lot of times in the past, I have failed at listening to my gut because the person was a friend and I thought they were performing the job the way that they should. And I was always giving them the benefit of the doubt. And it's hurt me. It's hurt me because I would then get rid of that person a year later than I should have, put someone else in there, and we have immediate results. And I'm just like, how did I miss this? What was I thinking? And so focusing more and more on putting the right person in the right spot. And I'm going to tell you what, I've never gone wrong with hiring the smartest person. I mean, we all do it, right? We sit down with 5 people, and if one person stands out, hands above, a little bit more intelligent or a little bit more mature than the other ones, or understanding with experience a little bit more, just never going to go wrong. Intelligence is going to win every time. It's going to win every time.
I love that. I actually have a selfish question I wanted to ask you. So I know that was supposed to be the last one, but I got to ask this one. So I heard you earlier, you said, your CFO was there or whatever. We're in the process of getting ready to hire a CFO for the first time. What is it like? At what point did you hire them? And like, what are they doing for you exactly? Are they like doing your books like a CPA, or they're advising you on keeping things clean? Like, kind of what is a role of a CFO?
Yeah, there's a lot of different definitions there. I should have Fawn come over here and get on here and he can tell you. So at the point we're at right here, that person is running and touching all things financial, from CapEx to building out, to TI of getting money back from a landlord, to the cash drawer on a daily basis for all 12 Dogtopias and all 17 Sweathouses, to our corporate overhead at LFC is around $9 million a year. Just the corporate overhead. Okay. Jeez. I mean, this is a big business we got here. Okay. We're not playing around here. And so that's a pretty beefed up team. That's a team of 6 people right now, from a couple entry level to a bookkeeper to head of accounting, to a two senior analysts, and then a CFO. And so that CFO is running everything on a daily basis, all things financial, touches everything. And then would sit in on the executive level with me and Mike Tan. Mike Tan's my COO, but he's much more of a business partner. I mean, he and I are basically partners, and so him having that title doesn't make sense. But everyone wants a title. It's the funniest shit in the world. I had people there. I had someone come to me. They're like, "Hey, I want a different title." I'm like, "Okay, you just make up whatever title you want." They're like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Yeah, I don't give a fuck what your title is. If you care what your title is, you're in the wrong place. You just you want to be president, be president. You want to be president of fucking whatever, you're president, whatever you want to be. Like, it doesn't matter." And that's the way we operate. And this is my office. I sit on the floor with the entire team. Like, I don't have an office. I sit out here with everybody.
Yeah.
And so that's beautiful. Yeah. I mean, yeah. And so, I kind of lost my train there. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's good. So they're helping you analyze every decision, everything that's happening.
They touch everything. They touch everything. That's right. They touch everything.
Okay. Jamie, this is awesome. I mean, this is probably my favorite conversation. I love this.
Saying that. You guys are just saying that. Y'all are just saying that.
No, I swear to God, I learned a shitload. This is probably the most I've ever learned.
Because we've never talked to. We talked to a ton of business owners. We've never talked to a friend like this part of it, like this side of the world.
Right, and someone who's been through an exit, fairly recently. Right.
Yeah.
So that's super educational for us.
Yeah. I enjoy talking about it because it's so new for a lot of people, and so many people are such assholes about it. Like, "Oh, I don't want to talk about my accident." I'm like, "Shut up! You didn't do anything different, dude. Like, you're lucky. You're lucky you had an investment bank do that shit for you.
Right.
And so, there's some things you got to do. There's some things you got to do right, and things you got to think through really early to make that shit happen.
Thank you so much. This is awesome. Really was.
Yeah, anytime, dude. Yeah, anytime. Thanks for everything, guys. Good talking to you.
Thanks, Jamie.
Have a great weekend.
See you, Jamie.